preparing to live stream the meeting. As usual, if you're not wanting to be seen in the YouTube recording, please shut off your video. You can turn on your microphone later if you have a question and your video is not on. I'll do my best to pay attention to hand raises as far as those participants that are, if you don't have your video on, that's the only way I'll know for sure that you want to say something, is to raise your hand, or you could just unmute yourself and go ahead and start talking. This is not like a super formal group or anything, so just speak up as you will. Okay, good morning, everybody. Before I dive into the list that I had emailed out last week, I know Greg had a couple questions, so I want to make sure we've got time for that. So you want to go ahead and start us off, Greg?
One, I'm just curious how many churches are open for worship? I know we got a soft opening Sunday, and we are going to in person splitting the alphabet in half on this Sunday and in the month of June. And I'm at St. Matthew. So we're doing that, but I just wonder how many other churches are meeting in-house, so to speak, or if they're meeting outdoors. One reason I'm asking is I want to schedule some lay servant get-togethers and classes. And it'd sort of be nice to know who I could call and say, hey, you're meeting. I don't want to call 15 churches and they all say, oh no, we're not meeting. We're still closed. So that's the purpose behind that question, basically. So if there's some way that we could get that information relayed to everybody, I'm sure other people are thinking the same thing. I have one person who's telling me, well, they've been meeting all along. And then I find out, well, yeah, they're meeting out in their parking lot. Well, that's not always convenient for having a class session. Or even, we couldn't even meet on the patio when we were closed. Yeah. Maintaining distance. So if we could get some sort of list, I'd appreciate that.
Okay. Holly, you had your hand up?
That was before I knew that we were going to make a list. At Crossroads, we have been meeting back to normal. We're still using masks, social distancing, COVID covenants, all of that. But our sanctuary is large enough that we can social distance, and we've been having great worship services. It's almost like we used to be. So, yeah.
Okay. How about just go ahead, Jim.
I'm with Mission Bell in Glendale on 43rd, 44th and Bell. We have been open since just after Easter, and we are doing social distancing and so forth. Holly, I'm surprised that your attendance is that good, because we were only getting about 1/3 of our normal attendance prior to COVID-19. So, but we have resumed in-person classes too. So.
Okay. Good to hear. How about Sherry and Crossroads, Davina, any others that are on this call or meeting? And you want to raise your hand to say, yep, we are meeting in person, or unmute yourself to say something? So Sherry's meeting in person.
We're meeting in person. We've been meeting in person for probably a month now. We did install special filters. We have a pretty good sized sanctuary. So we have specific kind of filters that I can't even describe to you other than they're super max filters. We have social distancing within the sanctuary. And as of this last admin meeting at the end of April, May, that we've decided to going for, let me back up. We were taking reservations for March and April. We aren't taking reservations any longer. And starting in June now, and we have been having meetings together just in a very large room and wearing masks. Starting in June, don't have to wear a mask anymore unless you want to. They're going to have people on the left side of the sanctuary that feel comfortable in sitting near each other. The people on the right side of the sanctuary can still social distance. And as far as attendance on Saturday night, we're practically back to normal, what we had on Saturday night. And Sunday looked like 2/3, if I had to guess, of what we usually have on the 9 o'clock service. I did not attend 10:30, so I don't know. But little by little, people are coming back again. So I think we're certainly ramping up, and definitely the committees are meeting in person now as well as the church. Some people wear masks and some don't.
That's great news. So I'll talk to the COVID response team and see,
So
how we want to go about. Did you want to say something, Carla?
I did. Here, let me turn my video on too. So Greg, I would encourage you. Well, I go to Cross in the Desert in addition to supervising the administrative assistant as being the administrative assistant for the West District. And I can tell you that we opened up for small meetings, for meetings prior to opening up for worship. So I think you're going to have to just call a church and find out, because
Okay.
there may be some churches that will let you meet as a group but not worship, but there also may be churches that their reopening plan is open for worship, but they're not open for small groups. Unfortunately, you're going to have to make phone calls.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate the input from everybody.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. And you had another question about videographers.
We are having our racial justice committee, and with the support of the United Methodist Women, are putting on a one day, it's only a 2.5 hour session. They're calling it Racial Justice 101. And there has been some discussion about having a video recording of it. There's some hesitancy on doing that for privacy reasons, confidentiality. I don't really see the concern there. But I'm just wondering if anybody knows anybody who can be a videographer, because I've heard estimates it might cost $100 an hour to $1,000 an hour for doing it. My name came up as doing it, and I'm going, I don't have the equipment to do it, flat out. I mean, I have an old VHS camcorder sitting in the closet that hasn't been used for at least 10 years. My kids jokingly refer to it as a dyno cam. I mean, it worked great when we were having kids and we could take it on vacation and take videos of vacation. It also doubled as a VCR. So if we were in a hotel, we could plug that in as a VCR. But I'd have to, one, find a battery for it. Two, I would hope it would still work. And I'd also have to find a blank VHS tape. That's only 2 hours of taping. And this class is about 2.5 hours long. So does anybody know of any videographer who could possibly do it? I came up with one name, and I don't know if that contact's been made yet, but I'm just curious if anybody knows anybody, especially in the East Valley or Southeast Valley of Phoenix metro area, if you know of anybody who does videography. Sherry?
Greg, one of the things that I would do is, because we just hired a guy from Yavapai College to work with we have quite an elaborate system now that we ended up spending the money on just for our Sunday services. But one of the things we've discovered is this, I call him a kid, is amazingly brilliant with that kind of thing. You might think in terms of contacting the local college and see if there's somebody that's in videography classes that would like to do that, and maybe be able to check out even a camera or something like that. I have a 4K video cam myself, and I was thinking about it as I'm listening to you. It does a nice job with that. But I've also, I mean, honestly, our first services we did with an iPhone set up with a tripod, and that's how we did our church services, and it really wasn't terrible. So that's a possibility as well. Somebody that knows how to be able to use an iPhone like that to be able to do that, if it's a small enough room, can pick up well enough. But I truly would, even your community colleges or, ASU or wherever that is, that you think you might try that, get a hold of the professor there and see if they've got an outstanding student to do that. might be
Okay.
willing to do it for far less. And you might be able to rent the equipment then.
Okay, that's a good suggestion. Thanks, Sherry.
Yeah, that was great, Sherry. So when does this happen, Greg?
June 12th.
June 12th. So there's a little bit of time. Along with Sherry's thoughts, I mean, I've gone out to events for the conference where, yes, we'll use actual cameras, but sometimes as a second camera, I'll use my phone, especially if it's one of the new ones. I don't know if you can see, it's got, I mean, it's not really new anymore, but it's a good one still, that can shoot in 4K or HD. And it's just a matter of changing the settings on your phone for it to do that instead of 320 or 720p or something small. You just change the settings and you can actually record a bigger file, a better file for editing. And so you could potentially, let's say it's in a classroom or something. There's some recommendations that I would like to share with you. If you were going to record with your phone, I'd say two things. One is get in a spot, like, well, three things. Set up your phone in a place where you could put it on a tripod or something, because holding it up, even just your breathing is going to be moving it. And it doesn't seem like much when you're recording it, but when you're actually editing and rewatching it, it's very disturbing. So either purchasing a gimbal, which is a device that you put your phone on, and then you can even walk around with it and it's self-leveling, so that it doesn't matter if you're sitting down or whatever, you can even touch a part on your screen. Let's say you're touching the speaker's face, the presenter's face, and then as you move the gimbal, it'll automatically pivot your phone so that it stays with the speaker's face in the center of the screen. Does that make sense? I'm sure you've seen those really cool videos where they kind of turn. So that's one of the ways they do that. So using some device to stabilize your phone is really important. Number two, don't worry about, or don't try not to zoom in. Just move your phone to the closest comfortable spot that it's okay without distracting to the class. Because when you zoom in on your phone, you're actually making that file much smaller. It's going to be a lot more pixelated, but leaving it unzoomed, but still 4K or 1280 HD, then you can still edit it so that you can crop it where it's only this part instead of the whole room. So there's that. The post-production, you can take care of a lot of stuff. The final thing, which might even be the most important, is you have to have really good audio. So how do you do that if you're recording on the other side of the room with your phone? So plan on having either a second phone, maybe that presenter could wear something like this, just headphones that are plugged into the phone, and you're just recording the audio. You can sync the video and the audio later in post-production. There's also devices like Zoom. It's not Zoom, the software. It's a little device. It's a handheld device, and I'm sure I have one around here somewhere, but they're not really expensive. They're maybe $200, if that. And they do a really good job of recording. You can either connect a headset to that or just have it placed right in front of that person, especially if they're going to use a microphone. You could, try to strap it to the microphone, and then it's recording the presentation, and then you've got your video that you could sync up later. So those are the things that I would share with you about that. But we also, in case churches are looking for a videographer, video editor, I do have a list of maybe 4 or 5 people that do that sort of work that I can send to you. I don't know what types of jobs they're taking. These are people that specifically are being hired to edit worship videos. So Greg, I'm not 100% sure that they would work for your situation, but maybe.
Okay, well, appreciate it. Jim sent out some information. Thank you, Jim, for that. Appreciate it.
Perfect. Oh, you know who else has a really good one? Paradise Valley United Methodist Church has someone that does great work as well.
Okay.
Okay. And then, so earlier, well, your first question, Greg, I wanted to make sure it was okay to share with you guys. that today the bishop's going to be releasing another COVID response team update. And in that release, he's basically sharing about how Arizona and Nevada are now both kind of in a stabilizing place. And I'm going to share my screen so I can show you. Do I have, no, I don't have it open yet. So just a sec. What I want to do is share my screen to show you guys how, in case you're not familiar with it, we have a spot on the conference website that, here it is the COVID, it was called reopening guidelines, but now it's updated COVID protocol. And so this is part of what he's going to talk about. So it's completely different now. And it's basically all about how the CDC has lightened restrictions. And I'm sure you've seen it at the grocery store or restaurants, wherever, that you're not necessarily required anymore, just recommended to wear masks. And so you can go here to read more about, you know, what does that mean for our churches? It's kind of exciting. It basically means we can now start, you know, carefully reopening. Yeah, so
Okay.
I encourage you to go there. All the old stuff that we had before is still here available. You can see what the different phases were. But now this is the newest and greatest part. So kind of excited about that. I think a lot of churches are looking for, probably every one of our churches. Why wouldn't we all be looking forward to seeing each other in person once again? And for those persons that have already been vaccinated, to not even have to wear a mask. You know, lots of really cool stuff happening. Okay, so yeah, go ahead, Holly.
I heard on NPR that even if you're vaccinated, if you are near someone who has COVID, you can inhale those droplets and exhale them into the air again and infect someone. So even though most of our people have been vaccinated, we are asking everyone to continue to wear a mask. One of our members has cancer has returned. One of our members has anxiety problems. We have posters around, love thy neighbor, mask up. So
yeah. Thank you for that. That's a great reminder. We don't know what's going on with each individual person in our congregation. So it's important to be grace-filled, understanding, and, you know, take care to love one another. And if that means, you know, well, I already was vaccinated, but I'm being asked to wear a mask, then, you know, you do it lovingly, you know, happily, because at least we get to see each other in person. All right. Now, hopefully you guys saw the link about Pride Sunday. That would be for this Sunday. If you're planning on using that pre-recording, it was changed. You know, sorry, I don't know what exactly was changed, but it was changed. So, and the text is different too. So both of those items are available in that Google Drive. And the link was included in the email. I'll send it again today in my response email. What else? So if you are thinking about combining in-person and online small groups, that's like a Zoom equipment question. How do you, and it's kind of the same thing, sort of very different, but in some churches, it could be the same thing for what do you do to be able to have worship in person and keep the online people engaged, you know. So we have a training about that was recorded from early in the COVID-19 time. I'll link to that video recording. It's that one, I think it does talk about equipment that's needed. It talks about, you know, paying attention to the people online, just like you're paying attention to the people in the audience. Once in a while, look to the camera and speak directly to the camera. And I'm talking about you guys there, and, you know, that sort of thing, as you're talking to the whole group. But specifically about equipment. So the question was, we're going to have a small group that we were having in person. Most of us want to be No, we were having it on Zoom. Most of us are going to meet in person now, but there's some that are still not comfortable. So how do we make it so that everybody can participate? So the way we've done it before through the conference, let's say we were at a church, then what we did is we had, because let's say we were in the sanctuary, what we had to do is a couple things. One was, if it was a big enough group, we probably needed to have microphones so that we're not yelling across to try to be heard. So that actually adds an extra layer of complexity, because we also had a computer in the room that was running the Zoom room. So, or not a Zoom room, a Zoom meeting. So we had a camera facing the presenter. We had audio connected to the church's soundboard. Sometimes we weren't able to connect to the church's soundboard. So we'd have audio onto the computer that was receiving the video, then they'd also be receiving the sound. And so then in that case, that's where the technical issue is, because you get the echo from the room going into the Zoom meeting. So instead, what we did is we still had the computer that was connected to the camera, the webcam recording, but on that computer, we turned off the sound completely. So it wasn't getting sound that way. Instead, the presenter had their phone in a pocket in their front shirt, and in another case in their pant pocket, doesn't matter, but we had, just like this, headphones plugged into that phone, and the phone was essentially another person signed into that Zoom meeting. And so for the phone, we turned off the video. So all that was coming in was the audio. So basically for me, it was, let's say I'm presenting to people in person at my house and you guys are the online participants, then this would be plugged into my phone in my pocket, and my webcam on my camera is doing the video. So you'd see my name in there twice in the blocks of participants or in the participants list on the right. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so that's how we did it for, kind of makeshift on the go presentations at a church. And that's what will work for what you need for now, that there might still be people that are participating online, or maybe in the future, but maybe you don't have the budget to change out the room altogether to have built-in speakers in the ceilings with microphones in the ceilings. That's what we have set up in the conference office. Just one of our conference rooms, the biggest one, has that set up. We've got speakers in the ceiling and microphones set up in there. And we also had, let's see here, did I send the link to it? No, not yet. There it is. So we had this Logitech group conferencing system. I'll send you guys a link to it, but I'll show you what it looks like on Amazon. Not that one, this one. So it's, this base unit is the speaker, and it has a microphone on it, and this little remote control sets right in here, and you can adjust the camera. And as you can see, it's an HD camera. It's great. Works really, really well. You can zoom in really well. You can pan left to right, up and down. These little guys are extension pieces, so it doesn't always come with that. You have to look for the ones that do come with it. And so we would spread this out on the tables in the room, so that, because we'd have like a round meeting space, or chairs and tables all in a round. So we'd put them around so that you didn't have to be right by the main base unit to be heard. So that worked out well. But for our bigger room, we ended up having to upgrade when we started having a lot bigger meetings. I had to get basically kind of like the same type of situation that you have in your sanctuary with the soundboard. That's what we ended up having to do. And there's different, I know I'm not going to use the right terminology. I'm not a sound tech person, but there's like different, channels or frequencies or something that it has to switch to. If we had a microphone in the room, so that the people in the room need to could hear us louder, and we didn't get that echoing effect. I'll send you guys the name and company information for the company that we use to set up the conference room. They are an out-of-town company. We did check local companies and out-of-town companies. And at the time that we set it up, which was, I don't know, maybe 3 years ago. Let's see, COVID's been a while. No, it might have been 4 years ago. This was the most competitive, most reliably reviewed. You know, there's some companies out there that were pretty affordable, but the reviews weren't good. And even Better Business Bureau was like, oh yeah, I'm not messing with them. So anyway, so this company, they flew out and they were, you know what, that was the thing about this company as well, is because we're a nonprofit organization, they were very flexible with us on, not charging us a ton for travel to have to come out. And I think that they maybe even, I'll have to check back on the paperwork on how the pricing all worked out, but I'll share that with you guys. Anybody that's interested in doing something like that, let me know. I'll chit chat with you more about specifically what all had to happen. Because you learn a lot when you go through this stuff. You find out how much you don't know, and then you learn a lot of other stuff. Sherry, did you have a question or just scratching your head? Okay. All right. Let's see what's next. Then practice sessions for annual conference. So this morning I registered all of our clergy and all of our members to annual conference for the Wednesday, June 9th, 6 p.m. practice session for annual conference. That doesn't mean that everybody has to go. So many already did participate in the pre-conference briefing, so they don't have to come to the practice session. But for those that couldn't be there for the pre-conference briefing, you can watch the recording that either will be today or already is available at dscumc.org/AC. You can watch the recording, but that doesn't help you gain that practice knowledge. So you really do need to attend the practice session so that you're ready to go for annual conference. All right, so just FYI, I've already registered everyone, so everyone should have received an email about that today, and they'll get a reminder email with the join link an hour before the practice session starts. Okay. Then I sent you guys a link to free social media graphic downloads that were provided from outreach through UMCOM. So you got that going for you. Yes, question.
I was actually looking for the Pride, because you said there might be Pride graphics, but I don't see them on here.
In that, the free social media graphics?
Mhm.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I see spring, summer, fall, winter in general, and it's not listed under spring and summer, nor is it listed under general.
Oh, okay. So I will look those up. Sorry about that. And send you the right link. Sorry, guys. Thanks for mentioning that. Okay. Then sent you the link for the Did You Know Other Language Resources are available. Sometimes I know for me, sometimes when I'm sharing stuff, I want to be able to share it in other languages. And when it's on a website, I don't always realize that, not all websites make their sites available in other languages, and Resource UMC does. So I just wanted to make sure you guys were aware of that in case you needed that for your members or community. Okay, and I shared a link about the church marketing communications audit, social media training, and all that. But I was wondering, so UMC Resource or Resource UMC, UMCOM, they do a great job of, providing lots of different topics and making them accessible. I don't like that sometimes you have to pay for them. So, at least for conference trainings or district trainings, if we charge anything, it's usually just to cover the cost of if we offered sandwiches for the training, it was in person or something. So with that in mind, and knowing that COVID restrictions are starting to lighten up, we're likely going to do in-person trainings pretty soon here. So are there specific areas that you guys think, whether it's for an in-person training or a pre-recorded training, is there anything that you can think of that, man, I wish we had a training on something? There really is a lot of stuff out there. Okay. Well, think about it. And if something comes up, both what you wish you had a training on, I'd love to get an email from you if you feel like, you know what, just like I had to force learn how to set up a conference room for Zoom equipment. I could put together a list of equipment and talk to people about, here's what I learned from it. So if you feel like you had an experience like that you could provide some insight on, I'd love to hear about that. Also, if you found a really good resource that whether you or somebody else at your church was able to use to get started on social media stuff or live streaming or whatever, I'd love to get a link or information about that as well. So please send it my way. Okay. Oh yeah, then there's the pre-recorded trainings. I guess no, that is not it. I've got one more thing to show you guys. See, you guys are ready to log off already. Okay, so there is, that's not it, that's not. Yes, so super late notice, I know, but DSC Race Coalition is going to be starting another book study. It's actually Prescott United Methodist Church that's doing it, and DSC Race Coalition is kind of endorsing it because Reverend Frayne is a member of the DSC Race Coalition. This book study starts on June 9th, and it's going to be on Zoom. So, if you guys are thinking about like, oh, well, maybe it's not exactly officially like a church-led book study that you're looking for. So if you're looking for something for this summer, I think this is going to be a really good one. He included book reviews like no other. There's tons of information on it. But if you needed to find out something else, you can contact Reverend Ephraim Savala here at this clergy email address. Questions about that? All right, so I think that was the only one. Oh, yes. And then we're going to have, I haven't linked it yet, but it will be there today, darn it. The June resources for Where Love Lives. It's going to be up here within the next hour or two, unless I have a meeting scheduled right after this. I do. So it'll be up in about 2 or 3 hours. And this, what is this page? This is the Where Love Lives page. You can see the URL there, but if you just went to our conference webpage, oops, sorry, that's the back end. Don't look at that. If you just went to the conference website, you could click right here on Where Love Lives, and that brings you to the homepage where all of the resources are. And these are the previous resources, and then the one that's coming up will be linked right there. You can use any of this stuff at any point. This is just when we've published them, but you could use it whenever you want. And if there's something else that you saw that maybe somehow was missed from one of these links, let me know and I'll fix it. Okay, guys, questions? Yes, Sherry.
I'm interested to know how many people on this have sent that link to those Where Love Lives videos. Have you used them in your church?
Of the people here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Holly.
So Holly, anyone else? Okay. I was just curious. I wanted to take a survey on that. Just to let you know, one of the things I did was because I didn't really see how that was getting communicated. And I think that all of those are really interesting and really good. And so I ended up sending the one that I worked on with the communications team, and I sent it to the admin council, to all the chairs to that within our church and SPRC. And it was interesting to me what I got. I mean, I didn't hear initially, and then all of a sudden I got back, wow, that was really cool. How come we're not showing this to the whole church? And I couldn't answer that, but I copied the pastor on it just in case. And I don't know from there what took place, but I guess I'd recommend that, that you send it to your admin council, your chairs, and let them see it and understand what is there, because who knows who's actually getting that or that is directed to that. Not everybody is on this mailing list for this, and they might miss that as a nice resource. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you. Go ahead, Holly.
We included in our weekly e-newsletter, and there's not always a new link every week, but there's always copy that we cut and paste in, or background or something. So every week there's a Where Love Lives segment.
Yeah, so that's a great, thank you for sharing, Holly, and bringing that up, Sherry. I put in the chat the link to how to subscribe to the conference newsletters. It's dscumc.org/subscribe. So maybe, because that's just one of the items that people might be missing from your church leadership. What would happen if every chairperson of your church committees subscribe to conference news or district news or both? Maybe we'd all be able to collaborate a little bit more. And, not the pastor, of course, is in charge of all the things that pastors do. And sometimes they've got some other plan in mind for, because they've got a series of sermons ready to go. There's maybe your stewardship campaign is coming. Something happened locally. There's tons of reasons why a pastor might not be sharing everything that's coming from the conference, but that doesn't mean that it's not relevant or needed. There could be one individual at your church that needs it. And so maybe if your committee chairs are subscribing as well, it can be shared in a different way where it doesn't derail from what the pastor's trying to do at that time with the church and the community and all that. But people that need this message can still get it. And that, again, it's just about Where Love Lives. But, we put all like the COVID response updates in the newsletter, stuff about trainings, things about grants that are either going to be available or that are going now. Just tons of stuff, events that people can participate in. So I highly encourage you guys to share that subscribe link with your church leaders, at least, so that they can choose if they want to subscribe just for their district, the conference, topic specific, United Methodist Men, whatever. There's plenty of options there for them to choose from. Go ahead, Sherry.
Sorry, one more question. So I'm just not knowledgeable about this. For all of these that you've had, all of these Tuesday talks, excuse me, is there an archive someplace? Is it archived by topic? Do you have a repository somewhere that people could get into from past?
Yes, and sadly, it's two separate ones. When we started out, I was focusing only on the Facebook group, DSC Communications, and I had invited church communicators to join that closed group. So we were live streaming into the Facebook group for church communicators, and that's where I would ask for questions. That's where I would post links to stuff. And but then I started having problems streaming to Facebook, so I switched to YouTube. So the first stuff that went out is in the church communicators Facebook. The latter things that are happening is in our DSC Communications YouTube channel, and there's a specific list for Tuesday talks. So they're all there, and I've been going back into those Tuesday talks and adding some of the same notes that I send to you guys. So before you watch the video, you can scroll down in the description to see, is there anything there that I want to look at? The only things that I take out are things like personal email addresses. So like if Sherry said, hey, yeah, contact me if you want to blah, blah, blah. I won't keep that in there. But if there's a web page that talks about the Communication Commission, then I'll link to that and people can go to that link to find out more.
I guess so that answered it to some degree, but also from the aspect of, is there a way to be able, is there a search aspect of that I want to find out about all of the technical resources that there are available, or the grants available through the conference or whatever, where they had it on Tuesday Talk. So do you have something like that somebody can click on and find the Tuesday Talk that talked about that, or find the information like that?
Well, I don't have it archived on our conference website like that, searchable like that. The descriptions and the write-ups about it either only go out to you via email. So you could go back to your email and do a search for something on Tuesday Talks, and since I don't have it completed on YouTube, I don't know that descriptions are searchable on YouTube, but you could find a Tuesday Talk and then that'll get you to the whole playlist of Tuesday Talks. But yeah, not on the conference website.
We can, that's probably a conversation for the commission, but I just wanted to bring that up in case that was there. If people knew that there was a repository that they could click on and get to some of the information, it would be interesting.
So some of the stuff that we do have, so like under resources, maybe I'll link Tuesday Talks there. But you can find what we have about grants or the DSC race or whatever. And so that's the list as things come up. But besides that, we also do send out, whether it's me or the district superintendents or the appropriate staff person or committee chair that's assigned to that area. They might be working with pastors directly, where like if there's an ethnic local church grant that's coming out, then district superintendents maybe will be the ones that'll talk to that pastor directly and say, hey, there's so many spots available. I know you guys are starting this new ministry. It looks like you qualify for this grant. Here's the link to apply. We don't normally, for grants like that, I don't know that sometimes grant information about grants are sent to all churches, but a lot of times it's very specific. So our leadership sends it to those specific churches, but that's just about grants. Anywho, so I recommend check out the resources menu item. I'll see what I can do about adding something about Tuesday Talks on there in a way that's searchable. That's a tough one because okay. And then of course we do have the trainings and stuff available through that same resources, the previous recordings of webinars and whatever. I don't really consider this a training. It's a meeting, a conversation. So it's not linked there. Oh, a Google Sheet. Great idea, David. That's a really good idea. It still wouldn't be searchable from our conference website, but that would be one way to include all of the information, all the notes and stuff. And that could be linked from the menu under resources for Tuesday Talks, or a page for communications or something. So good ideas, guys. Thanks. Okay, I'm all done. Anybody else have any last minute stuff? No? Go ahead, David.
So I sent you that link telling you that I got a wide angle webcam, and this is it. So see how wide it goes? Yeah. Jody was looking for a solution, and Christina, you graciously sent her the link to what the conference has, that really nice setup that Logitech has, where you have, microphones and a central hub and remote control and a PTZ camera. It's awesome. But this one is a smaller little single all-in-one device that just has a fixed camera, but it's like 100 degrees wide, so way wider than a normal webcam. And it's got a mic built into it and a speaker around the base. So for a small room with a small group, just people sitting at the table, you want to put somebody else in the room in Zoom, nothing fancy. this was listed about $199. I think Amazon had a $30 off coupon on it, so it was $169 plus tax. So it's a thing. I can put a link. Well, it's easy. Here's the product name. It's a new ROUM, so New Room C20. There we go.
Thanks, David.
Sure.
Oh,
I was looking for something that was inexpensive, user friendly, portable, and yeah. But again, it's not fancy, and so it is what it is. But you can hear well on it. It wouldn't fill a big room with sound or anything like that, and and you can, and it has really nice quality camera.
Great. And if you're really in a pinch and want to try to have some people online and some people in person, another thing you could do is just have a laptop take up one of the chair spots in your maybe round seating, and have the persons on each side of that laptop be in charge of tilting it towards, if somebody's talking over there, then they can participate too. And they're seen around the table just like everybody else is. So it's almost like you're there in person. Sadly, for the person that's online, it's not as friendly because unless you're like right across, like that person's not going to see all of these individual faces. That person's just going to see a room full of tiny faces. So keep that in mind. It's not the best setup, but it's something. All right, guys, I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I look